Hello, listeners. I'm Timstradamus, and it's that time of year again where Voyse goes to her office Christmas parties and steals all the chocolate she can.
I ask first.
She came home with a gigantic platter last night.
It was heavenly.
There had to have been like 50 different types of chocolates on this thing.
So first things first, I must say, it was on a very cute platter. And I noticed that after the party was done, they just started throwing them away, platters and all. So I asked, can I take all of this? Including the platter. And they said, feel free.
Voyse's German chocolate-loving side is coming out now.
So delicious.
And as you can tell, joining me as always is my festive and beautiful co-hostess, Voyse.
Good morning, Timstradamus, and Yuletide greetings to all snow fairies and elves, wishing you all sorts of fun and good health.
Oh, let me break this one out. That was lit.
You really had to dust that off from what, the 2000s?
That's real cringe. I love that. That feels good.
Talking about real cringe and some health, would you like to hear a joke?
Yes.
How do you wash your hands over the holiday?
With soap and water?
With sanitizer.
Sanitizer? All right.
I just have to say, please, while you're out there, it is cold and flu season. Please take care of yourself. And if you hear someone coughing, you tell them, go over there. Don't get near me. What are you doing? Nothing makes me not want to touch any food at any kind of social event when someone's coughing near it. Huh? No.
That doesn't deter me the way you think it should.
Oh, no.
For any new listeners, Voyse and I enjoy reading and talking about stories from the internet that are interesting, funny, and dramatic. Because of our love of stories, we've come together and created this channel to share with you those experiences.
And hopefully give you some food for thought.
So Voyse, what did you brew today?
Well, I crafted for you an Earl Grey. I figured it's a hump day. Might as well do something that I know that you'll absolutely love.
Oh yeah. That's a good hump day. Fruit Loops?
Yes.
Enjoy that.
Perfect.
4 out of 5.
Well, while you go ahead and enjoy your morning brew, why don't we go ahead and delve into these stories? You did that too soon. But for any listeners wanting to follow along, all story links are in the description below.
Christmas.
For our first story. Am I the a-hole for refusing to split my inheritance with my siblings? I'll try to summarize as much as possible. I, female 19, have an estranged grandpa more or less. He's my dad's father, but my dad hardly had a relationship with him. I have 2 other siblings, one younger, 13, and one older, 26. My grandma divorced my grandpa when my dad was only 10, so he lived with my grandma his whole life in a different state and didn't see him. When he got older, he saw him a little more, and my grandpa started coming around a little bit more as well. He'd stay for a week at a time and then go home. He was an old, bitter man, to be honest. He never got married and lived his whole life in his coastal town with the same friends he'd had his whole life. He wasn't pleasant to be around and could hold grudges longer than anyone I've ever met. But regardless of this, he was filthy rich. He owned a successful business that he sold for $1 million. He retired after selling, but his house sits on an island, as well as the biggest piece of land on the island, so it sold for well over $3 million. I was never close with my grandpa, but I took after his sister, who is an RN, and he adores her. He always told me that he was proud to see me follow in her footsteps. He died a few months ago. Since then, my family has been torn apart. He left everything to me. He essentially liquidated all of his assets, and it ended up being close to $8 million. I was shocked. I didn't and still don't know what to do with the money, but I'm going to save it. My dad and stepmom, as well as my siblings, are hounding me to split the money with them. I just can't do it. My dad is an alcoholic who never said anything nice about his dad. Despite him being bitter, my grandpa actually bought my dad a $300,000 house. My dad would 100% drink away any money given to him. As far as my siblings, My brother has full financial support from my grandma, as he is the favorite, and he's very wasteful and ungrateful. He never talks to me and always is very mean to me when he does. My little sister is the only person I've actually considered. She's very young, and that's really the only thing stopping me. Her mom is money-oriented and would take the money from her, so I'm waiting until she turns 18, and I offered to pay for her college. But now my family is telling me I'm unfair, and the money doesn't belong to me, and I'm not deserving of it, that I'm too young, and I'll waste it on cars and clothes. I don't agree, and now they're all threatening to cut me off and never speak to me, or even sue me if I don't give them all a chunk of the money. I don't know what to do, and I'm buckling under the pressure here. I've already had 2 police officers out to my house because my dad is claiming I stole the money from him. Everything was through an attorney. I know I did nothing wrong legally, but morally, I don't know. So, am I the a-hole?
Well. It looks like we have a family full of Scrooges. We have an entire family that was estranged from their grandfather and their father. And now that he's passed, everyone's saying that they have a right to that money. There's a reason why there's wills put in place. What I'll tell this OP is there are many different ways that you can make sure that you don't irresponsibly spend that money. I would definitely look to put that money you have for your, youngest sister, put that money in a trust for her. Let her grow into it. As far as your dad's concerned, I'm shocked that he called the police on you twice to report this stuff. Have them try to take you to court. You have enough money. You can defend yourself. It was given to you for a reason. Now, it might make for some very, very awkward family holidays, which I'm certain you will never be invited to, because it definitely sounds like you have a family that will hold a grudge. I would just say this, just be careful. Learn how to spend your money wisely. Just make sure you take advantage of the leg up you got, because not everyone gets that.
Well, the consensus on Reddit was our OP's definitely not the a-hole. In fact, a commenter actually suggested that she put that money away for her sister into a trust, just like you suggested. They also said get a good lawyer and make sure to find a financial advisor so that they can help guide you along the way. The last bit of advice was don't tell people about your financial anythings. That can put you in a precarious situation, and make a will for yourself. That's important.
Definitely. Those are all really solid pieces of advice.
Well, the nice part is our OP actually provided us an update. So let me go ahead and read that. First off, thank you to everyone for the advice, links, etc. It was greatly appreciated. It's been almost a month since my post, so I figured I'd try to update and clarify a few things. 1. My family and I have tried reaching out to my father to get him help. He's declined. Giving him money or even bribing him with money to get help wouldn't work like some of you suggested. It's already been tested literally not even 3 months ago. Number 2, my brother is fully supported by my grandparents despite being almost 30, and they have never done anything close to that for me. Therefore, I didn't feel it was necessary to give my brother anything as he had a very bad relationship with my grandpa and only came around when he died. Number 3, my mother wasn't included in the story because I didn't think it was necessary. She has worked 3 jobs her whole life to support my brother and I because my dad was negligent and threatened her, so she never got child support. She's always supported us and provided for us, even though my dad has always made double the amount she has. Number 4, I didn't ask for his money. I didn't have any previous knowledge I was even in the will. I was upset when he passed because we had always been a bit closer than him and the rest of my siblings/family. Number 5, my grandfather bought my dad a very nice house. He didn't have to, but he did. My dad never said thank you. He doesn't keep it clean and doesn't take care of it. Simply, he doesn't deserve the money after everything that's even given/done for him. With all of that being said, here's what I've chosen to do. I set up an account for my little sister with enough money for a 4 to 6 year degree, a car, and a down payment on a house. I donated a sum of it to charities, bought myself a new car, and put the rest of it away into CDs that I can't touch for another 4 years unless I pay fees to withdraw the money. I plan to renew these accounts every few years or until I absolutely need it. Again, thank you to everyone. I was scared, lost, and overwhelmed. I couldn't have done this without all the support and advice I was given.
Well, good for her. Sounds like she got a lot done in a month.
Yes. At least it seems like she was provided some clarity and choices to be able to make the right ones. I know when you get a lot of money, it can seem extremely daunting and in a lot of situations really scary, especially if your family doesn't think that that money is yours. Some will go to crazy extremes. I hope that she stays safe and that she has a good future ahead of her.
Continue with your education. I'm not sure if she was already in school, but continue with that. Don't just rest on your laurels. Money doesn't make you happy.
Well, let's go ahead and walk away from this family situation and go into a date setup, shall we? Am I the a-hole for telling my sister that her husband set me up with a pimp? I, 19 female, was set up to go on a date with a guy, Jack, by my sister's husband, Blake, 32 male. I was over at my sister's house with her, Blake and their children, about 2 weeks ago, and Jack came over to drop something off to Blake. We met and I thought he was cute. Blake later told me that Jack asked for my number and he gave it to him, and that since I've been single for a while, Jack is a good guy and I should give him a chance. Jack and I went on a first date later that week and a second one 2 days ago. Things were going okay. I wasn't crazy about him, but it seemed we were compatible and I enjoyed our conversations. He told me that he works as a mechanic, but he never spoke much about it and dodged most of my questions, which I thought was odd. During our date 2 days ago, he told me he wanted to be honest and tell me the truth about him because I'm his dream girl and he can see himself with me long term. And he needs to know now if I accept him for what he is. He told me he's a pimp. He's the manager at a strip club, which is actually just an illegal brothel, and his job is to find girls willing to do the job and find men that want the service. It's illegal in our country, and pimps get probably a decade in jail if they're caught. I was honestly shocked and told him I'm not interested in dating someone who does that for a living and quickly left. I called Blake and asked him if he knew what Jack does for a living, and he said, yeah, what about it? I said, what the fuck do you think you mean, what about it? Why wouldn't you give me a heads up about that? And he said, you're acting like he's a murderer. Relax. Not even he owed you that information. I was honestly very pissed off and told him to fuck off. I told my sister what happened, and she had no idea Jack was a pimp and got angry at Blake for setting me up with him without telling us what Jack actually does. Blake also apparently lied to my sister that Jack was a mechanic and only found the truth out through me. So they're having quite the fight at the moment. Blake called me, but I didn't pick up. And he later sent a message saying, I hope you're happy with the anxiety you've given your sister, all because you exaggerate and overreact to every little thing. Am I the a-hole?
What a specimen of a story we have. 'Tis a pimp. So, the story starts off harmless if you ignore the title. You know, the brother-in-law is introducing her to a friend of his, and he's a mechanic, and they hit it off. They go on a couple dates, and then I'm guessing he's catching the feels because he's like, look, I gotta be honest with you. I'm gonna tell you exactly what I do.
I like you, but I'm a pimp.
Yeah. And in their country, she says it's very illegal. I guess everyone is allowed to not want to date someone for whatever reason. You don't owe them anything. Even if he said that he was a school teacher and she says she no longer wants to date him because of that, she has every right to feel that way. Now, it may make you shallow. It doesn't really matter, though. You have the right. Once she finds out what Jack does for a living, she immediately calls this entire thing off. And after that, she leaves, I guess, and then immediately calls her brother-in-law. Asks how he could have left that pretty big detail about what he does for a living out of it. No, I'm not calling Jack a dangerous human being.
Although that potential is still there.
You have no idea about the trafficking problems. They're immense. And again, I don't know who this person is, but neither does she. The brother-in-law could have put her in some pretty dangerous waters. And it sounds like he didn't really care, because when she confronts him with this information, his rebuttal to all of it was that he didn't even owe you that. Are you insane? I'm shocked that the brother thought he had any leg to stand on in this situation. And then when his, I guess would be his wife, her sister, finds out what he just did and that his friend is a pimp, of course all hell would break loose. You almost endangered her family member for, I don't know what reason. Maybe you don't like our OP, but it sounds like you have very little respect for her. OP, you are not the a-hole. You have every right to keep yourself safe.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP is definitely not the a-hole. In fact, our OP came on and said that they were honestly thinking about trying to report Jack to the police, but they're terrified that they don't know what would happen. Would it put her and their family in danger? But at the same time, they're also thinking of who knows who those women are, if they're actually doing work that's willing or if they're being trafficked into this role.
Yep.
And there are a lot of commenters that came out and said, look, as much as you're trying to be a good person, your safety first. I would just wait it out. If it's still on your mind later on down the road, go ahead and put in an anonymous tip, but your safety first. It's no different than when that air mask comes down, you have to put it on your face before you can even begin to start putting it on anybody else's face around you. And I think it is very legit advice. And I have to say, her brother-in-law is an absolute piece of work. If he's trying to lay blame of the severity of this problem back on our OP, it shows that he has no accountability to the type of danger that he could potentially put not just our OP in, but his own family in as well. Crazy. Well, let's go ahead and skip to our next story and see what you think about birthdays and Christmases. Am I the a-hole because I told my husband I'd rather stay home on my birthday and do nothing than spend it at his parents' house celebrating Christmas? Am I an a-hole because I don't want to spend my birthday eating Christmas dinner with my in-laws and adult stepchildren who treat me like crap? My birthday is December 23rd, which is bad enough already, I know. This year, my husband's family has decided to have Christmas at his parents' house on the 23rd. My husband has 3 adult daughters who barely speak to me when we get together, and his parents and sister are still friends with his ex-wife. They have even gone so far as to invite said ex-wife to family get-togethers when my husband and I could not make it. This past Thanksgiving, we hosted dinner at our house and, 1, his parents barely ate anything, saying things like, "We don't like smoked meat," and "We aren't used to stuffing with sausage in it," etc. And 2, his oldest daughter was fixing a to-go plate to take home to her boyfriend before people were even finished eating. When my husband called her out on it, she threw a hissy fit and sat on the couch sulking the rest of the evening. 3, nobody offered to help clean up afterward. They all sat around the kitchen table drinking while my husband and I cleaned up the dinner mess. Am I an a-hole for not wanting to spend my birthday around people who have repeatedly disrespected me and my feelings, make me feel like I am not even part of the family, and barely speak to me, or my daughter for that matter? Or should I just suck it up and take the high road and be there for my husband?
I'm going to be on the low road with you. It's not really the low road, though. I don't believe ROP is the a-hole. She says her birthday falls on the 23rd. And what the family is trying to do is do birthday and a Christmas event on the same day. But in reality, this doesn't feel like a birthday so much as the Christmas event.
Correct.
Because the rest of the family seems like they really don't like ROP. So I'm wondering why there is that animosity between the adult stepdaughters and ROP. And my biggest question to all of it is, how old is she? Does she ever verify that for us?
So our OP doesn't tell us her age. What she does do is tell us some other details. So the first thing that she says is that her husband and his ex-wife had already been divorced for a few years before they even got together. Additionally, our OP says there is a lot more to the story, too much to go into here. I actually think there is/was a dynamic before I was in the picture that was not talked about by his family either. Lots of things seem to have been swept under the rug years ago instead of dealt with head on. And I don't believe his family hates me. I just feel like there's this total lack of respect, and I'm just supposed to keep my mouth shut and accept it.
Intriguing. Because I thought maybe initially we might be dealing with the fact that maybe the stepmother is only a couple years older than her stepdaughters, but that doesn't sound like the waters we're swimming in.
It's really weird because our OP actually defines her husband as being the type to think that if they pretend the problem's not there, it'll just go away.
Ooh.
So they won't confront the problem head on and try and work it out. They'll just avoid it and pretend like there's not a problem there when there's clearly an issue.
So she knows that there's something in the air, but she doesn't know exactly what it is. All she's alluding to is there was a dynamic within the family before she got into it.
Correct. Now, I will say that she does have a teenage daughter. So we're not talking like our OP's very young.
I have to say, better OP, you're definitely not the a-hole. It sucks that your what should be family treats you as a doormat, and they only do that because your husband allows it. And that sucks because it doesn't sound like he has your back. That whole pretend like something's not there until it disappears is a pretty bad way of going around life. Please understand those type of dynamics and things within a family structure don't just get better by ignoring them. Either you need to have these conversations with your husband and he needs to get on top of helping you, having those conversations with his family, with you present and around, or you need to start looking at the exit door because I wouldn't be dealing with that. Every single Christmas for the rest of your life, around that time, you're going to be shepherded in to having to deal with a Christmas party that also, by the way, will just kind of shoehorn you into the birthday as well.
Or some garbage Thanksgiving party where they're in your home and you're not being treated with at least common courtesy.
That starts with your husband and his relationship with you and his lack of respect for you because he allows other people to disrespect you in your guys' home. Start having some real conversations with your husband, though.
Well, the consensus on Reddit is that our OP's not the a-hole. And it's funny that you say that last part because one of the commenters says, "You're not the a-hole, but why is your husband letting his family treat you this way?" Our OP says he doesn't see it from my point of view and says I'm just overreacting and reading too much into things. Another commenter said, "You have a husband problem. Stay home. Let him go by himself. Order pizza and rent a movie." In fact, our OP actually went and said, "I live in St. Louis, Missouri area, home of the cracker thin crust pizza with Provel cheese. Most either love it or loathe it. Amazing how polarizing pizza can be."
Sounds like you're going to have a nice pizza night.
I wouldn't mind trying some cracker thin pizza.
Well, it sounds like she was able to get some much needed advice on her situation.
Agreed. Well, let's go on to our last AITA story of the day. Am I the a-hole for telling my aunt she is cruel for selling puppies? I, 33 female, and my husband, 34 male, live on a farm with 2 houses. My maternal aunt stays in one house and we stay in the other. My husband and I have 2 dogs and my aunt has 2. My aunt expects us to feed her dogs with ours. She is working full-time and her salary is almost double what my husband and I make together. We usually don't mind feeding all the dogs, but about 4 weeks ago, her female dog, as well as our female dog, both gave birth to a litter of puppies. This morning, when I went to feed the dogs, I noticed all her dog's puppies are missing. When I asked her about them, she told me she sold them as they are able to eat on their own and they just cost her money. I told her they are only 3 weeks old. She then went ahead to tell me that she does not care. I then told her that they still had to get milk from their mom. She proceeded to tell me that it does not bother her in the least because they are already gone. I called her a cruel old lady that only cares about money. She then told me that I am an a-hole and need to treat her with respect, as my mother would be disappointed in me at the way I was treating her. Mom passed away 5 years ago. So, am I the a-hole?
Okay, so let me see if I understand the story correctly. OP is living on a farm with her husband.
Correct.
And on this farm, there are 2 homes. This is their land, though.
As far as I know, yes.
That the aunt in the story is living on in her own home.
Let me go ahead and answer that question with the answer that our OP gave. They said, I am from South Africa and the houses are in an estate from my grandparents. I own a third and she owns a third.
Okay. So legally, she is allowed to be there. This is also a part of her inheritance.
Correct.
So I can't speak on the laws and what they do as far as how they raise their dogs before they sell them. Now, the thing that I'm shocked about is those puppies were only 3 weeks old. ROP is 100% correct. Those puppies needed to be with their mother because they needed to be getting all of those vital vitamins and nourishment from their mother. You need that. It's in the milk. It helps them with their immune system. All of those things fall under this. It's crazy how the aunt looked past all of these things. And it also befuddles the mind that depending on how many puppies there were, A, they got sold that fast. And B, anyone would buy a puppy at 3 weeks old. Just a little quick Google search would tell you that that is not a good thing. That you should have waited, I think, 5 more additional weeks before you ever even came close to those puppies. Because you're not even telling me that they got vaccinated, right? We're not talking about all the things they need before they even leave the property that they're on. There's so many things that they could be exposed to. Their bodies aren't ready for the outside world yet. You're not the a-hole, OP, in my opinion. You have every right to be upset and caring about those puppies' health.
Well, the consensus on Reddit was that our OP's definitely not the a-hole. And let me go ahead and give you an update from our OP that answers probably some more unspoken questions. They said, we had our male dog fixed and we had to wait for mom to be old enough. Unfortunately, she got pregnant before we could. 3, a couple months ago, we found a stray on the farm and immediately called the animal rescue, after which we found out she is pregnant at our vet appointment, which is why we had postponed our appointment to get her fixed to early 2024. We do keep our dogs separate, but found a hole in one of our fences where the stray could have gotten in. The puppies are still fine. I threatened to call the police if she so much as touched them. She's talking about their puppies. Mm-hmm. To clarify, we are not breeders, even though I never know what goes through her mind. 6, I showed all the comments to my husband and he is already so mad at himself and blames himself for the entire situation, especially since the stray got in. He now feels he does not do enough to keep us and the animal safe. He actually does, and I keep reminding him. I also told him accidents happen, and we will just make sure to not let it happen again. 7, we have a community group on WhatsApp and Facebook. I sent on both group messages that if anyone has any information on the puppies or buyers to please contact me urgently. And 8, we will also be talking to my aunt to get her dog fixed. I am also going to tell her if she does not do it, I will. So, just to go ahead and provide more clarity based on our commenters and their perspectives. So one of the commenters on Reddit actually says that it's illegal in Sweden for anyone to sell puppies before 8 weeks and kittens before 12. Additionally, in the US, that is the same. You're supposed to wait 8 weeks before you go ahead and you sell or give a puppy away. Now, there were some individuals that says that there was a really well-known pet rescue over in Long Island that they actually gave puppies as young as 4 weeks old. And a lot of them were sick puppies. They said that they actually got 2 that were so young and found out that they had parvo.
That's terrible.
I must say, there are a lot of irresponsible people out there when it comes to animals, and it's not the people that are in this that truly pay for such irresponsible actions. It's these poor animals. I don't get it personally.
Yeah, that's just a pretty sad situation. Doesn't sound like you're going to get anywhere with your aunt, and good luck with that fight.
Agreed.
Well, was that our last story?
That was our last AITA story, but I don't want to end it on that note.
What?
So let me go ahead and give us another type of story that I hope puts a smile on your face. This is from a thread called Today I Fucked Up.
Okay.
TIFU, by flowering while showering in my 20s. This happened many years ago when I was but a young man in college, but the story actually starts about 18 years before that, when I was a baby. Like most kids, I hated getting soap in my eyes in the bath. Even the gentle baby shampoo would send me into a rage. My dad, being the intrepid problem-solving sort with a penchant for over-engineering, came up with a sort of 360-degree visor that my hair would stick through. Then they could wash my hair and the soapy water would just roll off. It was great. It kind of looked like a flower on my head, so my parents would say I was flowering while showering. Eventually, the OG visor got mildew and was disposed of, but my dad made a few over the years. He ultimately stopped when he decided that I should be able to wash my hair without getting soap in my eyes, but I wasn't having it and started making my own. Over time, flower hats for this exact purpose became mass-produced, and I switched over to just buying them as needed. Never got soap in my eyes. It was great. Would you like to see what this flower hat looks like?
I'm intrigued. Okay. Looks like a flower.
For the head.
I kind of figured it would be some type of like visor situation. So it's close.
All around.
Yeah.
Well, by the time I was 20 and living in my own apartment in college, I still hadn't kicked the old flower hat. I was flowering while showering every day, living my best life. Cue a cute girl staying at my place and suggesting we take a shower together before plucking. She asked me to wash her hair and brush conditioner through it, which apparently felt really good to her and was a major turn on. When I was done, she offered to wash my hair. I didn't think that would do anything for me, but I said sure. I then reached out of the shower for the drawer where I kept my flower hat and put it on. At first, she laughed and thought I was joking, even after I explained what it was. But then I think she noticed how it looked kind of old and used and faded, and that it would be strangely elaborate to keep a flower hat in my bathroom for the occasional joke. To her credit, she washed my hair while I wore it. We didn't end up having sex that night. I can't remember her explanation, but after she left the next morning, she didn't return my calls or my AOL Instant Messenger messages. I didn't stop flowering while showering immediately after that. I would just say, "Oh, I washed my hair already," if the situation came up again. But when I met my now wife, I knew it was time to give it up. So I no longer flower while I shower. I just live with the occasional pain of getting soap in my eyes. But you better believe that when we had kids, I immediately got them flower hats. My wife thinks they're brilliant. She has no idea of my dark past. And every once in a while, I look over at my kids' flower hats and I hear them calling to me, beckoning me to don them. I haven't succumbed yet, but I think it's only a matter of time.
Don them you shall. Oh, that's a cute story to end this off with.
Yes, I wanted to give us some giggles.
That's so much nicer. Yeah, that's really funny and cute. I've never had a problem with soap in my eyes while I shower, but I guess if that was an issue, I definitely wouldn't care what other people thought of me flowering and showering.
I guess that's true. I'm presuming that our OP is on the older side, probably a different generation. I can imagine if you're trying to hook up with the girl and they've never seen this at all, because from what he sounded like, it just started getting mass produced. And then he's all like, yeah, I'm going to get this. But it doesn't sound like it's something that's really mainstream. You would walk into that shower and then you're like, I want to wash your hair. It's going to be so romantic. And then suddenly you get this flower hat.
Here's my Captain America shield right on top of my head. Look, the thing is, it was a good filter. That wasn't meant to be. His wife, he just says, loves them. So you found the one you were supposed to be with anyway.
I just keep thinking, what would I think if you don't know a flower hat?
If I was flowering and showering, I would hope you'd understand, because the reasonings are fine with me. Like, if my eyes are burning every time I use soap in my hair.
Why do you have your eyes open when
I don't
you
know.
put soap in your hair?
Maybe people have that problem even when they close their eyes. I don't have that issue.
That's very true.
I've also never heard of that though, but I know a lot of people don't just go around telling you what their afflictions are in the bathroom when they take showers.
See, I used to have very sensitive eyes as a kid, and I would like the Johnson's Tearless shampoo, and even then I would still feel the sting. I don't know if it was in my mind, as a kid, you think, oh my God, there's soap and therefore the sting should be there. I just learned to just tilt my head so far back that when the water does hit, it just rolls back and not in my face.
I've just always closed my eyes and I've never had a problem with it. But I also do understand that pain tolerance is different for every single person.
That's very true too. I just think about how awkward that might be, especially when you realize that you may not be getting that call back because of your flower hat, and therefore you must hide the flower hat. But he made sure, regardless of what was thought of him, he made sure that his kids would be able to use the flower hats.
Yeah, he did the right
think
thing.
That's great.
That's why I said I think it worked out the way it was supposed to in the end.
And who knows? He might just borrow it just once.
Donneth that cap. Well, was that our last story?
That was our last story.
That was a nice way to end it. Well, as our stories come to a close, don't forget, you see in the world what you carry in your heart.
If you have enjoyed listening to us read and talk about today's stories, please rate, subscribe, and turn on notifications for new content. We regularly post on Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays. We would also love to thank all of our patrons for your support.
Yes, we love and appreciate every single one of you. And as always, listeners, we look forward to hearing your opinions in the comments below. What was your favorite story today?
Mine was the flower in the shower.
That title caught me off. I was like, what are we exactly talking about in this? But yeah, it turned out really good.
Yes. As I said, I got caught by the title and I was like, what does this mean? Should I worry about clicking into this? It had an M rating. I was really second guessing if I should go into it. My curiosity got the best of me.
Well, I'm happy you did.
I'm so glad that M rating was not bad, by the way. I was legit a little petrified until I saw that picture. And then I was like, what am I looking at?
A flower cap.
A flower cap, yes.
And remember, if you post it, maybe I'll flower while I shower. No.
Please don't.